From blockbuster names who once had it all, to rising talents who threw it all away, these actors went from fame and fortune to prison cells and shattered lives. They're locked behind bars, serving hard time? In this video, we're exposing 18 actors whose careers didn't just crash, they're literally rotting in jail right now. Some of these names will leave you speechless. Stick around because the list gets more jaw-dropping with every name. Danny Masterson, the actor best known for that '70s show, has just been handed a stunning 30-year prison sentence. His downfall began back in March 2017, when 3 women came forward accusing him of sexual assault. Soon after, 2 more women stepped into the spotlight with similar allegations. The backlash was swift. Netflix cut him from the ranch and his talent agency dropped him. By August 2019, 4 of those women filed a lawsuit against both Masterson and the Church of Scientology, claiming the church had orchestrated a campaign of stalking, harassment, and intimidation to keep them from seeking justice. According to the women, church officials discouraged them from going to the police, told them what happened wasn't assault, and retaliated when they refused to stay silent. Eventually, prosecutors charged Masterson with multiple counts of sexual assault. If convicted on all charges, he faced up to 45 years in prison. His first trial ended in a mistrial, but a second trial delivered a decisive blow. He was found guilty on 2 out of 3 counts of forcible rape. And now, at 47 years old, Danny Masterson is staring down 3 decades behind bars. Skylar Julius De Leon may have brushed Hollywood fame as an uncredited extra on Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, with a few commercials scattered in between, but that was the height of her acting career. By 2004, she was no longer chasing roles but chasing something far darker. That same year, a retired couple decided it was time to let go of their prized possession, a 50-foot yacht they had proudly called home. Their dream was to trade it for a quiet house closer to their grandchild. They listed it for sale, and Skylar, along with her then-pregnant wife and another child in tow, answered the ad. The family facade worked, instantly putting the couple at ease. A trial run of the yacht was scheduled for November 15, 2004. But that day turned into a nightmare. During the trial, Skylar forced the couple to co-sign the yacht over, hand over their bank account details, and then, in a chilling act of cruelty, bound them to an anchor before throwing them overboard. They vanished beneath the waves, never to be seen again. The case quickly drew police attention. Skylar tried to outsmart investigators, showing forged documents to prove she had purchased the yacht, even spinning a story about laundering burglary money. For a while, it seemed she might get away with it, until one accomplice fled to Mexico, only to return later, consumed with guilt. His confession blew the case wide open. Skylar's wife was soon tried, convicted on 2 counts of first-degree murder, and sentenced to life without parole. As for Skylar, the evidence was overwhelming. Her defense team didn't even attempt a strong case. At one point, they argued the killings had been committed to fund her gender reassignment surgery. In the end, Skylar was convicted of the couple's murders, as well as another killing, and sentenced to death. One co-conspirator also received a death sentence, while the man who confessed got 20 years. In 2019, Skylar De Leon legally transitioned to female and today resides on death row at San Quentin State Prison. But if you think the story is shocking, wait until you hear the next one, featuring a female actor who ended up behind bars for sending poison-laced letters to President Barack Obama and New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss these unbelievable true stories. Michael Jace's acting career stretched nearly 20 years, but he's most remembered for his role as Officer Julian Lowe on The Shield. That career came to a devastating end on the night of May 19, 2014. Police rushed to Jace's Los Angeles home after he himself placed a frantic 911 call. When they arrived, they found a shocking scene: his wife, April, dead from gunshot wounds. Jace was taken into custody on the spot. Prosecutors later revealed a chilling motive: April had been preparing to leave him after enduring years of physical and emotional abuse. Over the course of the trial, evidence exposed Jace's long history of domestic violence, and a witness even testified to witnessing one of his violent outbursts firsthand. In May 2016, the verdict came down. Michael Jace was convicted of second-degree murder. The once familiar TV face was sentenced to 40 years to life in prison, a far cry from the Hollywood spotlight he once enjoyed. Today, he's serving out that sentence at Corcoran State Prison, his legacy forever stained by the crime that ended his freedom. Amy Locane, once the bright star of Melrose Place, is now serving an 8-year prison sentence for a tragedy that changed lives forever. In June 2010, after a night of heavy drinking, she made the reckless decision to drive. What followed was a chain of devastation. The first crash was minor, leaving only shaken nerves and dented cars. But the second was catastrophic. Driving at nearly twice the legal speed limit, Locane slammed into another vehicle, the violent impact killing the passenger instantly and leaving the driver clinging to life. When tested after the crash, her blood alcohol level registered almost 3 times the legal limit. Paramedics at the scene later recalled the chilling detail that Amy laughed and giggled as they fought desperately to treat the wounded. By December 2010, she was charged with aggravated manslaughter and assault by auto. In February 2013, she received a 3-year sentence and walked free by 2015. But the story didn't end there. In 2016, an appeals court ruled that her punishment had been far too lenient. In February 2019, she was ordered back to prison with a 5-year term. Finally, in September 2020, the case reached its grim conclusion. Amy Locane was resentenced to serve 8 years behind bars, a sobering reminder of how one night's decision can destroy lives and erase a career once full of promise. Harvey Weinstein, once the powerful mogul behind Miramax and the Weinstein Company, experienced a spectacular fall from grace. In late 2017, the New York Times and the New Yorker shattered Hollywood's silence by exposing decades of whispers, allegations that Weinstein had sexually harassed and assaulted actresses while sabotaging the careers of those who dared to resist his advances. Their reporting ignited a tidal wave. More than 100 women came forward, and the revelations sparked the global #MeToo movement, forcing countless powerful men across industries to face long-ignored abuses. Weinstein's empire collapsed overnight. Expelled from his own company, he was soon arrested and charged with multiple counts of sexual assault in New York, Los Angeles, and London. His New York trial ended with a 23-year prison sentence, followed by another 16 years in Los Angeles. Once celebrated as a kingmaker in Hollywood, Weinstein is now a disgraced figure in failing health, destined to spend the rest of his life behind bars. Josh Duggar's fall from grace was as swift as it was disturbing. Once known as the sweet, smiling kid on 19 Kids and Counting, he later became infamous as a convicted sex offender, a shocking turn that devastated not just the public, but his own family. Perhaps the most heartbreaking part of it all is that his siblings were both his earliest victims and, later, some of his loudest defenders. Between 2002 and 2003, Duggar's parents disciplined him multiple times for sexually assaulting his sisters and other young girls. Yet law enforcement was never contacted. Protecting the family's image took priority over accountability. In 2006, the Duggar clan was scheduled to appear on the Oprah Winfrey Show, but that appearance was canceled after producers were tipped off about Josh's predatory behavior. By then, the statute of limitations had run out, leaving him free of legal consequences. But the scandals kept piling up. In August 2015, Duggar's name surfaced in the Ashley Madison data breach, revealing his extramarital affairs. Then in April 2021, he was arrested for possessing child sexual abuse material. 8 months later, he was found guilty. In 2022, he received a 12-year, 7-month prison sentence, along with a $50,000 fine and 20 years of supervised release that ban him from unsupervised internet use or contact with children. Still, Duggar refuses to accept the verdict, filing appeals and bizarrely blaming his crimes on disgraced Subway pitchman Jared Fogle. Fogle's story was equally grotesque. Back in 1999, he shot to fame after claiming to lose over 200 pounds by eating Subway sandwiches. The company quickly made him the face of its advertising, and for years Jared appeared in hundreds of commercials, guest starred in movies, and even stepped into the WWE ring. But behind the corporate smile lurked a predator. In 2015, the director of Fogel's nonprofit, the Jared Foundation, was arrested for child exploitation. Investigators discovered that he had traded disturbing material with Fogel. Soon after, authorities raided Fogel's home, uncovering electronic evidence of his crimes. That same day, Subway cut all ties. Court records revealed that in 2012, Fogel had paid a teenage girl for sex and even urged her to find younger victims for him. Facing overwhelming evidence, Fogel accepted a plea deal in August 2015. He was sentenced to 15 years and 8 months, fined nearly $2 million, and required to serve at least 13 years before being eligible for release. From prison, he has written letters admitting he royally screwed up, while lamenting trivial comforts he now misses, like walking barefoot on carpet or eating with silverware, an almost surreal contrast to the horror of his crimes. Actors make a living by convincing audiences to believe in make-believe, tales, myths, and fantasies. But Zach Avery took that talent far beyond the screen. The White Crow star, a psychology graduate, wasn't just acting in films, he was acting in real life, running one of the boldest cons Hollywood had ever seen. In 2013, Avery helped launch 1inmm Capital LLC, pitching it as a gateway to big profits from movie distribution rights. He promised investors, including close friends and even family, sky-high returns. What they didn't know was that Avery was orchestrating a massive Ponzi scheme. Instead of building a business, he siphoned millions to bankroll his own lavish lifestyle, duping over 200 investors out of roughly $650 million. The charade collapsed in April 2015 when federal agents caught up with him. By October 2021, Avery pleaded guilty to securities fraud, admitting the scheme had been a sham from the start. The following February, a judge sentenced him to 20 years in prison and ordered him to repay $230 million. Zach Avery may have played many roles on screen, but his most infamous performance was the one that landed him behind bars, proof that even in Hollywood, the biggest drama sometimes happens off-camera. William Hayden, a former Marine with an extraordinary gift for crafting firearms, once stood at the center of fame and fortune. From collectors to law enforcement agencies, orders poured into his Louisiana-based company, Red Jacket Firearms LLC. His talent was so captivating that the Discovery Channel built an entire reality series around him, Sons of Guns, showcasing his work to millions of viewers. But in August 2014, Hayden's world collapsed. He was charged with the sexual assault of a minor. Despite loudly proclaiming his innocence, the allegations were enough for Discovery to shut down Sons of Guns for good. The scandal deepened when his own daughter came forward, accusing him of violently assaulting her when she was still a child. The case went to trial, and the once celebrated gunsmith was convicted. The sentence was staggering: 2 life terms plus an additional 40 years, with no chance of parole, suspension, or probation. In 2017, another conviction added yet another life sentence to his record. All 3 run concurrently, ensuring Hayden will spend the rest of his life behind bars. From reality TV star to convicted predator, William Hayden's fall from grace was as shocking as it was irreversible, a chilling reminder of how quickly fame can crumble under the weight of dark and unforgivable crimes. Joe Sun, better known as Joe's son Hae-Youngmin Sun, lived a life that spiraled into infamy. A martial artist, wrestler, actor, and ultimately a lifer, he never won a single MMA or kickboxing match and earned only a D-list reputation in Hollywood. His one recognizable role was as the parody henchman Oddjob in the James Bond spoof Austin Powers, International Man of Mystery. But in May 2008, Sun's life took a dark turn. He pleaded guilty to felony vandalism, serving 60 days in jail plus probation. When he violated those terms, the court slapped him with another 90 days, and that probation required him to submit a DNA sample. That submission would unravel everything. His DNA was matched to a brutal sexual assault that had occurred on Christmas Eve 1990. Though the statute of limitations prevented full prosecution for rape, Sun and his accomplice were instead hit with torture and conspiracy charges. In September 2011, Sun was convicted of torture and sentenced to 7 years to life. Just a month later, he was accused of beating his cellmate to death. Put on trial again, he was found guilty of voluntary manslaughter in 2017 and handed an additional 27-year sentence. From failed fighter to disgraced actor to convicted killer, Joe Sun's life is a chilling tale of wasted talent, violence, and irreversible downfall. Joe Exotic, better known as the Tiger King, was never just another eccentric animal lover. He was a spectacle. From 1999 to 2008, he ran the Greater Wynwood Exotic Animal Park, a roadside zoo that made him both famous and infamous. A former police chief turned online talk show host, wannabe country singer, wrestling commentator, and even an independent presidential candidate, Joe built his brand on chaos and controversy. But behind the glitz and showmanship were disturbing accusations. Reports claimed he fed his tigers expired Walmart meat and slaughtered donated horses just to toss their carcasses into cages. Yet nothing defined Joe Exotic's legacy more than his bitter feud with animal rights activist Carole Baskin. Their war erupted in 2009, when Carole began campaigning against cub-petting operations, Joe's main source of income. One by one, shopping malls cut ties, thanks to her relentless pressure. Joe hit back with venom, hosting talk shows where he hurled insults at Carole, accusing her of murdering her missing husband and feeding him to her big cats. He even published pages from her stolen diary and, in a reckless move, copied her nonprofit's name and details to trick donors. That stunt cost him dearly. He lost a lawsuit and was slapped with a $1 million judgment. Desperate and spiraling, Joe crossed a line he could never walk back. He offered $10,000 to what he thought was a hitman to have Carole killed. The hitman, of course, was an undercover federal agent. In April 2019, a grand jury convicted him not only on 2 counts of murder for hire but also on a laundry list of wildlife crimes: illegal tiger killings, black market sales, and falsifying records. In January 2020, the Tiger King was sentenced to 22 years in prison, a sentence trimmed by 1 year in 2022. Today, Joe Exotic sits behind bars, battling cancer with a do not resuscitate order in place. His larger-than-life saga now reduced to a grim fight for survival. Ryan Grantham, a former child actor who appeared in Diary of a Wimpy Kid and Riverdale, went from on-screen promise to a real-life tragedy. In the early hours of March 31, 2020, while his mother played piano at home, Grantham crept up behind her and fatally shot her. +1. What followed read like a chilling, methodical spiral. Prosecutors say he rehearsed the killing, filmed footage in which he confessed and showed his mother's body, then spent the rest of the night buying beer and drugs and researching violent targets online. The very next day, he packed his car with guns, ammunition, and Molotov cocktails and drove roughly 200 kilometers toward a town called Hope, reportedly intending to travel on and carry out an assassination plot against Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, before turning himself in at a Vancouver police station. EW.com. +1. Court documents and psychiatric reports later painted a darker picture. Grantham had been fighting severe clinical depression and, according to experts, had developed psychosis after heavy marijuana and alcohol use. In court, those mental health struggles were cited as part of his downward spiral in the months before the murder. The Independent. +1. In September 2022, he pleaded guilty to second-degree murder and was given a life sentence, with the judge ruling he will not be eligible for parole for 14 years. The case remains a grim example of how untreated mental illness, substance abuse, and obsession with violence can end in irreversible loss. Colin Rashad Walker was once a rising rapper with an acting credit in Superfly, but his career came to a devastating end when he was exposed as a serial predator. Today, he is serving a 50-year-to-life sentence after being convicted of sexually assaulting 3 teenage girls and 4 women. According to a deputy district attorney, Walker was nothing short of a predator. Using social media as his hunting ground, Walker lured aspiring models and actresses with promises of music video roles or photo shoots. But when these young women showed up at the designated locations, they were assaulted. In April 2022, the King's actor was found guilty on multiple counts of sexual assault, and by October of that year, he was sentenced to spend the rest of his natural life behind bars. As part of his conviction, Walker must remain on the sex offender registry forever. Yet, despite overwhelming evidence and the testimonies against him, he continues to insist that he did nothing wrong, claiming the trial was unfair. His story stands as a chilling reminder of how fame and social media can be twisted into tools of exploitation. Zara Pythian, best known for her role in Doctor Strange, is now serving time behind bars in Britain alongside her husband, not in Hollywood, but in prison. The couple was convicted of sexually abusing a minor, with her 60-year-old husband also guilty of abusing another victim on his own. In 2022, the then 38-year-old actress was sentenced to 8 years, while her husband received a harsher 14-year term. Both must serve at least half of their sentences before they can even be considered for parole. During the trial, the judge painted a disturbing picture of their relationship, describing Zara as completely infatuated with and under the near-total control of her husband, so much so that she would obey his demands, no matter how immoral or illegal. The court made it clear he was the driving force behind the abuse, but she was complicit. One victim's impact statement left the courtroom shaken. She accused the husband and wife duo of stealing her innocence and destroying her ability to form trusting, lasting relationships. Her words captured the devastating, lifelong scars left by the crimes, scars that no sentence could ever truly heal. Todd and Julie Crisley, the once glamorous stars of Crisley Knows Best, are now trading luxury for prison walls, with many years still left to serve. The husband and wife duo weren't just reality TV personalities. Behind the cameras, they orchestrated a massive scheme to defraud banks out of more than $30 million. Both were eventually hauled into court and convicted on multiple tax crimes, while Julie was hit with additional charges of wire fraud and obstruction of justice. Long before fame came knocking, the Crisleys had been fabricating documents to secure enormous loans, money they splurged on a life dripping in excess, designer wardrobes, sprawling real estate, exotic vacations, and a fleet of luxury cars. When their show turned them into household names, their earnings skyrocketed, but their tax payments mysteriously didn't. Today, Julie is serving a 7-year sentence while Todd is facing a grueling 12 years. Neither has ever admitted wrongdoing, choosing instead to pin the blame on a sloppy accountant, though every appeal so far has failed. According to their attorney, they still cling to the belief that it will all work out in the end. Meanwhile, their children have spoken out about their parents' harsh conditions behind bars, describing prisons without air conditioning, infested with poisonous snakes, plagued by black mold, lead paint, and asbestos. Todd, his lawyer claims, is battling severe anxiety, crushed by the lack of privacy as fellow inmates reportedly sneak photos of him even while he sleeps. For a family that once flaunted wealth and control on national television, the fall has been nothing short of devastating. Shannon Richardson, once just a background extra on The Walking Dead, is now living out a very different kind of story behind bars. Known only for bit parts on screen, her real-life drama turned far darker during a bitter divorce. In a shocking scheme, the thrice-married actress tried to frame her estranged husband for one of the most dangerous crimes imaginable. She called the police and claimed her husband had mailed ricin-laced letters to high-profile figures, including then-President Barack Obama and New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg. Her husband was swiftly arrested and interrogated, but the case against him quickly collapsed under closer scrutiny. His statements about Shannon and the cracks in her story shifted investigators' focus directly onto her. At the time, Richardson was pregnant. Under pressure, she changed her story, insisting she had only mailed the poisoned letters because her husband forced her to. But when the truth caught up with her, Shannon struck a plea deal in late 2013. The following year, she was fined nearly $400,000 and sentenced to 18 years in federal prison. Her projected release date, November 2028. Even now, Shannon maintains, "I never intended for anybody to be hurt. I'm not a bad person. I don't have it in me to hurt anyone." But with 3 life-altering marriages, a plot that nearly sent an innocent man to prison, and a federal conviction to her name, the once aspiring actress's real-life script has already been written, one that ends behind bars. Jen Shah, one of the breakout stars of The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City and the spin-off The Housewife and the Shah Shocker, has traded in her designer heels for a prison jumpsuit, and she'll be wearing it for years to come. In March 2021, federal prosecutors charged Shah with wire fraud and conspiracy to commit money laundering. According to investigators, her telemarketing empire preyed on seniors, tricking them into paying for services that never existed. Manhattan U.S. Attorney Audrey Strauss didn't mince words, calling Shah's so-called business opportunities nothing more than greed-fueled scams designed to steal millions from vulnerable victims. At first, Jen Shah fought back fiercely. She pleaded not guilty, loudly proclaimed her innocence on national television, and even used her platform on The Real Housewives to defend herself. But in July 2022, the facade cracked. Shah stood before a judge and admitted her guilt, pleading guilty to wire fraud. By January 2023, the reality star was sentenced to 6.5 years behind bars, a sentence later reduced by a year. On top of prison time, she was ordered to pay back $6.5 million to victims and forfeit an additional $9.5 million in assets. For now, Jen Shah's life of luxury has been replaced by locked doors, cold walls, and the long shadow of a scandal that shocked even the most dramatic corners of reality TV. Thank you for watching Exposed Hollywood. Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss the next story we uncover. See you in the next video.